You are now listening to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. We preserve the history and sport of hunting through curious conversation and action-packed hunts, as well as offering you tips and strategy for more successful hunts. The Hunter's Advantage podcast is powered by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. Out on a Limb is a family-owned company based right here in Oklahoma that makes tree stands, saddle platforms, climbing sticks, and so much more.
Christian, I have a quick question.
What's that?
What bites down harder, a hippo or an alligator?
No idea.
It's a trick question. The Ridge Runner 2.0 bites harder than both of them. But all jokes aside, we use these products all across the land on public or private. These help us get into any tree we want and hunt where the deer actually are.
Most men go to the grocery store for their meat, but these products help you go to God's grocery store. I have used the Out on a Limb Ridge Runner 2.0 and the Shakar sticks for the last few years hunting public land bucks, and I've actually shot several bucks out of this setup. If you want to support the podcast and get some Out on a Limb equipment, make sure to go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 for 10% off at checkout. Once again, if you want to support the podcast, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast. All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. Today we're joined by a couple special guests, Alex and Jeff from Vantage Point Archery. Thanks for jumping on with us.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, you guys might have seen, some of their awesome broadheads slinging through some big game across North America. I know I've seen some carnage pictures myself, but let's start a little bit off by talking a little bit about you guys. Maybe start with who you are and then kind of how you got started in this whole broadhead thing.
Yeah, I can go ahead and start. My name is Alex Christensen. I'm the marketing manager here at VPA. I've been here for about a year and a half, so Jeff had me come work here right out of college, and it's been fun. Just handle all things marketing and growing like crazy. So keeps us on our toes and keeps us busy.
I'm Jeff Stringer. I'm one of the owners at Vantage Point. We've owned it for about 5 years. Hunting's in my blood, born and raised in Utah. So I've been hunting since I can remember, big game, small game, feral cats, neighbors' cats, whatever it comes to, right? Just love it. And we found this machine shop and decided to buy it, and just so happened to have Vantage Point Archery on part of it. So that's what gets us up in the morning. We're just having a blast.
Alex, I want to know where these cool marketing jobs for outdoor companies right out of college.
Yeah, that ain't no joke.
I didn't see the waiver.
Yeah, that's funny. We were talking about that today, and we're like, it's a pretty fun job to have. But I've known Jeff my whole life. He's like a second dad to me. So had that marketing degree and wanted to come work for a smaller company where I could make a difference, and wound up here and love it. Love being in the outdoors. I'm new to bow hunting since working here, so I'm loving learning as I go. So yeah, it's a good gig. I love it. It's a good team we have. We keep it fun, and there's always a new adventure every day and new challenges, and yeah.
Well, nobody was standing at the career fair giving me those pamphlets, and I'm pissed.
But it's a select group. We had there were a few phone calls saying, "Hey, come try this out. What do you think?" And just glad to have her. Great family and ton of history back there, but just she keeps us on our toes and been a big part of our growth. So it's nice to have a good team you just cut up with and have a good time with.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. So you were talking a little bit about the machine shop. What is that your background, Jeff? Have you been in machining for a long time, or some of the folks that work with you guys, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I started out with a defense company back in Spanish Fork, Utah, and then in '92 went to Cressona Aluminum, a startup company that, long story short, they bought an Alco facility in the '70s, ramped it up, got it going, sold it back to them in the '90s for millions more. But that was my experiences: extrusion, machining, casting, all things metal. So I was actually working for some of my partners, owned a different company, and I needed some aluminum pieces made. Ran over to Absolute. It was recommended I run over there, took a peek at it, and it was just underutilized, a ton of potential, a ton of good people, and they had this broadhead side on it, and it's like, whoa, even if it failed, it would be neat to play around with broadheads. And then really got looking at how they're built, how they're made, And we do things different. It's just a different quality of broadhead. And that's not, I'm sure everybody tells you that, but I can prove it in the way that we make ours. And we've just blown it up, doubled every year from 18 through 20, quadrupled in 20, quadrupled again in 21, probably a little more than that, 22. And then this year it's just off the charts. It's crazy how big we're getting on the broadhead side.
Now I'm glad there's people like you that somewhat know about metal and stuff, because for a guy that doesn't know much about how broadheads are made or anything like that, it's, if I get it out of the package, I feel it, rub it against my arm, and I'm like, oh, that's sharp. Must be a good broadhead. But after shooting them through animals and missing them and hitting rocks sometimes, it's like a lot of these are only one-time use broadheads.
Imagine that. Could that be a marketing strategy? One and done, right? We're not like that. And I tell people we want them to be sharp out of the package, but learn how to sharpen your broadhead's part of archery, right? Part of learning how to be a good, ethical bow hunter. But just because it comes out of the package sharp doesn't make it a good broadhead. There's a ton of good sharp broadheads out there that aren't good broadheads at the end of the day.
I turned one. We had a company send us some to just try out a few weeks back, and I'm like, sure, we'll try them. And I shot one, hit a log and taco shelled it, and I sent it back I sent a picture of it back to the guy. I was like, what the hell's this? And he responded and was like, well, that was after you hit the animal. It did the job. I was like, no, let's stop and talk about this. That's not how this is going to work.
I mean, it wasn't just bent a little bit. It was
taco shelled.
It was like curled. It was crazy.
He was like, oh, that was a hardening process issue. I was like, you got a big problem, my friend.
One. We want, and we've seen this, we want our broadheads to be the ones that you guys, when you have sons or daughters that hunt, that you hand them down and say, hey, here's all the stories behind this broadhead. Keep it going and kill some more things with it. That's what we're looking for. We have some of our competitors saying that's a terrible marketing plan, and maybe it is, but I can look you guys in the eye and say, I sold you something worth the value that you paid for it. For some of these other ones, they can't. You can't make a broadhead for a pack of 3 for $20 and put any quality into them. That, or you got some kind of slave labor building them for you.
You don't have those or what?
No.
Yeah, I mean, you rely so much on the broadhead too. It's really interesting. I mean, if you hunt, you live the hunt and you do it as crazy about it as we are, and probably you guys are. That is the thing you're relying on to deliver a killing blow to an animal, which could be like one of the biggest moments of your life. When I shoot a 800-pound elk, I don't want to be like, oh, I hope this doesn't bend. I hope this doesn't break. And you can't really put a price on that. That's an invalid. I guarantee you shoot a bull and it goes in 3 inches and crumples like a taco shell. You're going to go, all right, here's $80. Just give me some good broadheads. You wish you could go back.
Well, and that's what we say all the time. We're like, why add more variables to your hunting trip or to your shot? Like, why would you shoot something you don't know if it's going to perform the way you want it to? So we really put all that time and energy into testing our products, R&D, and making sure they're as good as they can be.
Yeah, that's part of the reason we're into the fix. Is I was in Colorado back in, 2011, maybe 2012. I can't remember the year. Over a water hole, maybe 16 yards out. Bull comes in. I shoot this bull, and I seen the arrow hit. And it must have hit a rib, and it went down by the skin, out the bottom of the elk. It never killed it. Never killed the elk. Never died. And that's when I'm sitting there thinking, why am I shooting these mechanicals? I want something that no matter where I hit it, it's going through. And then we get into VPA and see what they have and how they're designed and who's behind them and what the testing is. Like, that's who we want to be. So we've taken it and grown it. And that's our, people say, oh, I shoot through cinder blocks. I shoot through armored plate. We're shooting through bones. We're shooting through skin. We're shooting through femurs. We're trying to get through all the things that's on an animal. There are not many animals running around with a cinder block on them, but I want to go through
or
the
a ballistic
femur.
gel.
Yeah, or ballistic gel. But we want a full pass through. There's a talking head out there the other day that did an interview with another talking head in our industry, and he said pass through doesn't matter. And I about choked. I'm like, are you kidding me? What are you talking about? Everybody wants a pass through, don't they? So now I want it to go in. What's that?
I said, I think we listened to the same podcast. I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I want it to go in 6 inches, 10 inches and stay. It's like, Okay, well, let's throw ethics out the window.
Yeah, you're coming on at a really good time because we just got done talking with Ranch Fairy a few weeks back, and then we got done talking with Ed Ashby. And one of the things that came away with that conversation with Ed was the animal gets a vote, like how it moves, how it's going to react to that arrow. And Ed had this really interesting demonstration. He said he would put a milk jug out at 20 yards and he would tie a string to it and he would stand behind a wall and he'd wait for somebody to shoot. And when he heard the bow go off, he would pull. And he said there wasn't anybody that hit the milk jug at 20 yards. That's how slow. And he's like, and I don't even have a great hearing. So think about what an animal can do at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 yards. And they get a vote when you hit them. And like, why even if you are an insanely accurate archer, you have to go to the game with as big a bullet, as big a broadhead, as bad as a setup as you possibly can, because things go wrong. It's just the reality of bow hunting.
Well, there's two different arguments to that, though, I think, because on the expandable thing, if you hit them too far forward, that's the no-go danger zone. But if you go, I think their argument is if you go too far back into the guts and stuff, they want something that'll really open it up. But what they don't know is, I think at least shooting through that gut, and especially like a quartered away shot, that's like hitting a sandbag. Mm-hmm. And so, the pros and cons to everything, but I think there's more cons if you lean that way towards the fixed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think when you look at those single bevels, and I don't care how big of a mechanical you got, let's say they're shooting at something that gives you a 3 or 4 inch hole, that single bevel, that corkscrew that you get in there, it's cutting arteries all the way around. It's cutting blood vessels all the way around. I think you're going to get it to bleed out no matter where you hit it. Again, it's back to a lot of these talking heads are expert archers. They are amazing archers, no doubt about it. Not everybody shoots that well. But then they talk about, well, if you hit it back, well, wait a minute. You keep telling us that we need to listen to you because you're so expert. And now you're saying, oh, you might miss one. You might hit one back. You might hit one forward. I haven't seen those videos from you, but let's talk through those. We try to make a broadhead that we can go through the soft stuff. Everybody can. So we know we're good there. We want to get that one that we can also go through the stiff, the hardened bone at the front side in case you're too far forward. So we think we've got the best of both worlds. It's still about practice, accuracy, do what you need to do, understand your shot, just make it ethical. And like you said, it might jump the string. We had guys say, I can hear your broadhead coming. Well, as long as the deer's dead, I don't care if it hears it coming or not. But more than likely, if you listen to the decibel meter, I can hear the string long before I can hear the arrow flying through the air. So they're probably going to jump on the string, and the broadhead, not saying it doesn't matter, but it doesn't have as big as an effect as people want to say it does.
It's interesting too, because I feel like a way that we have kind of went backwards in archery is like, let's shoot further on accuracy. Like we got to be accurate at 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 yards. For the average guy, that's pretty much out of the question. Like why we should focus on being really, really good hunters and 40 and in, and then creating a setup that is absolutely devastating from there on. And I feel like that's a kind of a direction we've went that, I don't know, we're asking more of our equipment these days. Like I need something that's going to fly silently at 90 yards. Why? The animal's not even going to be there when the arrow gets there. I don't care how fast you shoot.
Depends how big that animal is too. If it's like a 180 or something, I'm slinging a freaking field point at it for all I care. But
I think out west it makes a difference, but I don't know we were just putting hunting stands up this weekend and yesterday, and I don't know that I have a stand that's past 50. Mm-hmm. And if it's 50, it's a little brushy out that far. So I don't know. Again, we're not going to pick and choose. If you look at our lineup, we go from 100 up to 300. Shoot what you're comfortable with. Part of that interview that we're talking about, the Dudley Ranch Fairy interview, is I think they're both great people. I know Troy personally. I don't know Dudley personally. I think the world of Troy. We don't see eye to eye on everything. Again, don't know Dudley, but the one thing I walked away from that was Dudley went through, look, I've been doing this for so long. I started out, I wasn't a good archer. I got other people to help train me a little bit. I experimented with this. I tried that. I come up with this good setup that I love. It works good. Now, none of you guys do what I just did. Just listen to what I have to say and do exactly what I say. And if you don't, you're an idiot. Instead of saying, Troy, you know what? maybe we went down different paths to get to the same thing, but I appreciate the fact that you're doing the trial and error and you're trying to learn on your own what's going on and understand your equipment and understand your capabilities, because that's exactly what I did. That's the kind of conversation I want to hear. We can learn from both of them. They're both great people. Again, I don't know Dudley personally, but a great archer. But man, quit dogging people. That's what I don't like about the industry, is if I make you look bad, I look good. That's not the way we need to be. Let's just all figure it out. It's a sport. It's fun. We make money at it. It's a living for some of us, but it's a sport. Let's go have fun with it.
Alex, have you had any fun bow hunting experiences your first maybe year or two getting into this?
No, I'd say most recently, the most fun thing would be we had Joel Turner out here for a Shot IQ clinic that we hosted at Bass and Bucks. Yep. Yeah, so that was really fun. I feel like it ignited like the excitement for the season and to get out and actually practice consistently and be comfortable. And I feel a lot more confident and prepared after that. So I highly recommend it to anyone. Jeff did it too. We had a lot of fun with Joel. He's a great guy. So that was probably the most exciting thing so far. Looking forward to getting out there here. Opening day in Indiana is October 1st. So not too far away. I know Jeff's got some stuff planned before that.
Have you got to run an arrow through anything yet?
No, not yet. It'll be this year. Yep.
This is the one, huh?
Yep.
Oh my God. Well, unless you got a lot of money and want a brand new hobby that you're going to be addicted to, don't start.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ain't no joke.
We could write it as a tax write-off, right? R&D.
Yeah. R&D. Yeah. I want to go to Africa to do some product testing for 2 months. Need like 20 game animals.
Different bone structure. Everyone's different. We got to test them on all of them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you grew up hunting in Utah, Jeff. What's it like growing up hunting out west? I mean, that's got to be it's infinitely different than how us over here in the South and on the East. But I mean, what was that like?
When I grew up, it was a open tag. You just went and bought a tag and you went hunting. So from jackrabbits to cottontails to pheasants, ducks, geese, deer, elk, bear, mountain lion. We're one of the only states that don't have whitetail, but other than that, we have almost everything. No blacktail. It was just great. I mean, Utah's a great state. It's going kind of crazy now because you get all these out-of-staters that move from states that suck like California into Utah and bring all their stupid ideas with them. And now I think the Utah DNR is focused more on money than preserving the game. They're changing what year bulls you can take, what a fully mature bull is, and it's all different. But growing up there was amazing. I'm actually building a house back there now, so sooner or later I'll end up moving back, but can't wait to get back there. Just beautiful country. You can be in the sand dunes at 1 minute, you can be in the Alpines, 45 minutes later. Just diversity in terrain's amazing.
So you'd think growing up out there, maybe a lot of folks aren't be shooting mechanical broadheads. Is that how you grew up, shooting animals with some mechanicals?
No.
Never a mechanical guy.
I started out with a recurve that my grandfather had given me and probably shot it till I was 16. So I'm probably older than all of you. I was born in 70, so I shot that.
So you didn't kill anything until 16? Is what I'm hearing?
No, I killed everything. Yeah, it's funny to listen to people say, "Oh, I've killed hundreds of animals, thousands of animals." Well, I didn't know at that time you kept track. You just shot them and ate them, or shot them and hung them up, and it wasn't always about the trophy back then either. I can give you tons of stories about shooting does and cow elk and bull elk, and not always the trophy bull. The spike hunt was one of our favorite hunts to go on. Nothing you hung on the wall, but the memory package that I have of those is amazing. But yeah, I shot at that. Actually, that recurve had wooden arrows, and then actually I took some of those wooden arrows when I got my first compound, and I had to be 15, 16. I was shooting wooden arrows through that compound with big old metal fixed blade broadheads on the front. Lucky I didn't put them through my arm. And then graduated to newer recurves, and then got into the compound bow scene. I have a couple crossbows, but I don't shoot anything with crossbow. And then rifle hunting. Rifle hunting was big out west. killed a big bull elk last year with a rifle on the Pavant with Wade Lemon Outdoors, Wade Lemon Hunting. That's a good group of people.
Yeah, there ain't nothing more humbling than trying to hit something with the recurve because, heck, I picked it up for the first time, and it was Christian's recurve. Oh, it was 2 months ago when we were scouting. He just pulled it out, and he brought his bag target when we were down there and flung a couple arrows, and I probably missed it more than I hit it just from 10 or 15 yards.
And this is a big bag, too.
Yeah, it's
a big
huge bag. Well, probably a month later, we go out to the creek behind close to where I live. And of course there's some gar and carp. We attach the bow fishing reel thinking, if we can't hit a bag from 10 yards, surely we can hit, standing up on the bank, we can hit a gar. And I kid you not, I think we were one for 50 or 1 for 60 per person on what we got.
But did you have fun?
Oh, it was a great time, but
that's what it's about.
It's just humbling though, dude.
Yeah, it was.
It's amazing when you see like Joel Turner, he's there, and we have, I don't know, we probably had 25 people the first day and 20 or 25 the second day. And no matter what bow he picked up, he'd put it right on the X. A 22 draw, 31 draw, a crossbow. The guy is talented. And I think Dudley can do that too. That's a different level of shooter. And recurves, compounds, it was, like you said, it's pretty humbling.
Well, one of the most fun I think I've ever had shooting a bow was taking one out of Jake's dad's closet and then finding aluminum arrows and just walking around the pasture, shooting crows and stuff out of trees, and but missing and watching your arrow fly 300 yards and going, we got to find that before we shoot again. And we'd run over there and pick it up and couldn't find it. All right, let's go back to the closet and grab another one. That was some of the most fun we've ever had shooting a bow. It was stupid.
Well, there's a couple tractor tires that found them here before too long, but that's beside the point.
Oh, I'm sure. So I did want to dig into some of the broadhead stuff. I feel like there's a lot of folks that I don't know. It seems like more and more people are doing the east and west hunting in a single season, and I feel like maybe there isn't a one size fits all solution for broadheads for hunting east to west. But what do you think are some of the kind of consideration factors you would use when choosing a broadhead for a different type of game, maybe from whitetail to elk? Like, how would you make that decision in your mind?
Go ahead, Jeff. I was just going to say, we get a lot of calls about that. Like, hey, I'm going out elk hunting. What should I get? Should I get a heavier broadhead? I'm thinking I need something bigger. And a lot of times, like our sales manager, Ryan, who couldn't join today, he just says, any of our broadheads are going to get the job done. You're putting a solid fixed blade broadhead, 100 to 300 grains is what we carried. Those, a lot of the ones we see from out west too, they're doing 100, 125, and they're shooting far shots. They go with the vented broadheads even too. So a lot of our 3-blade stuff is what we see, but we get a wide variety from different people based on just what they prefer and kind of what they're comfortable with.
I think you got to ask them how far you're going to shoot, all that kind of stuff. But I can probably hook you up with 10 guys that can shoot a 100 grain broadhead and put it through an elk. And I can show you people that can shoot a 300 grain broadhead and probably watch it bounce off. It's about angles and shot placement and things like that. But what we tell them is, I'm a front of center guy. I prefer front of center. The lightest setup I have right now is a 150 on a 585 arrow setup. The heaviest I have is a 300 on a 686. But I shoot turkeys with that too. I shoot whitetail with that. So I'm not the one that picks a different arrow or a different arrow setup for everything, because again, I think being a good archer is you practice, work on your, target acquisition, work on your release, work on your trigger pull, take all that variation out, and then you change your setup every time you go shoot something different, because they all fly a little bit different, right? So I believe that less variation is better, not more variation is better. So I get a setup, and now I have a setup for my Darton, I have a setup for Matthews. I have 2 different Matthews setups. And when I pull that bow up, I already know what it's set up with and what arrows go with it. And that's what I go shoot. That's what I'm comfortable with. But that's up to you. If you feel better with a 200 grain heavy setup for an elk and something lighter for small game, then do what you do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. We have broadheads for everybody.
Yeah, I'm shooting a 560 grain arrow right now, and I feel pretty confident in that setup for just about anything that I would want to shoot. And I don't really feel like if you're shooting a moderately heavy arrow and a broadhead with structural integrity that's made the right way, I really do feel like you can shoot pretty much anything on the continent. And you talked about earlier, you were talking about shot placement, which is owning a broadhead company. You've maybe not, because you guys are more in the fixed and single bevel place, which seems to be that more people have common sense in that space, maybe. But what have you guys had anybody complain or take terrible shot placements and blame it on the broadhead? You have to have some stories about that.
Well, we have a lot of people blame hey, I shoot this broadhead and I go way right. I actually had one Sunday, and he wasn't complaining. He just said, hey, I shoot X broadhead, and I went to yours, and when I let it go, it goes right. And I said, all right, let's take it over to Bass and Bucks and Wabash and just have him check center line, make sure where you're at. And sure enough, he was off center. They went and reset his rest, moved his peep up a little bit, and he's shooting tacks with the broadhead he had on there before and the broadhead we have on there now. So I don't know if it's so much placement as it is not knowing your setup. We had Brian Poe over today, and we were talking to him, and he said the same thing. He switched over to our Omegas, and he said I was shooting right. So he said I went out there and I bare shafted, looked good. I moved my sight over 3/16 of an inch. Boom, I'm smashing tacks with that thing all day long. So I think, again, it goes back to knowing your equipment, trial and error. Don't just think you're going to pick up a bow and you're going to be the next Olympic archer, right? Go out and spend some time, understand it. And know, I actually learned how to tune my bow because I shot so crappy and couldn't figure out why, that I had to figure out, if I do this, or if I, might have to change something on your cams, or your peep sight might be wrong, or you might be off center between your rests and your arrow shaft. Knowing all those mechanics of what moves what makes a big difference versus YouTube and some guy that says do this and it'll shoot perfect, and then it doesn't, and you don't know why.
Yeah, I got an interesting question for you. Before we kind of went down the rabbit hole of heavy arrows and FOC and kind of being more interested in the penetration stuff, I was kind of one of the folks that was anti like bone breaking and arrows and broadheads, and I was like, oh, that's totally BS. Like I thought that there's no way you're breaking bones with a freaking arrow and broadheads. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that maybe actually is possible with the right broadhead and the right construction?
It's not possible. It's factual. I mean, I can show you all day long.
That's a good way to put it.
I can show you all day long. We've shot, and people say you can't do it. We'll shoot through ball joints. And it doesn't mean we go through both ball joints all the time. But if you look, and I don't have any, I do. Pause for 1 second. Let me go grab some broadheads, and I'll show you. Well, actually, I got one right here. So here is my.
Can't see it.
Okay. So this is a replica, right? This is a 3D printed single bevel chisel tip. So if you read the Ashby stuff, and I'm not knocking Ashby because I love those guys, they do an amazing job and put the white papers out, but they would tell you that this tip is not good. It's not the Tonto tip that they recommend. But I can prove to you with this chisel tip that when it hits the bone, it actually fractures the bone open, and then because of the torque, got to get my camera here, because of the torque, it opens it up and allows the broadhead to go through. And we can show that over and over and over. That's why some of our broadheads have the chisel tip on them. So it does. We can go through femurs. We don't usually shoot just through the scapula because that's a thinner piece. We try to go through the bulk of it, wherever the bone meets up with the scapula or where the ball joint is. And if we can make it through that, we can make it through anything. And we'll show you video after video that we get total pass through, sometimes through both scapulas, sometimes through the ball joint, the vitals and the scapula going out the other way. Had a guy shoot one last year, went right through the femur, finally killed the deer with a second shot, but shot it right through the leg. And it passed through all the way through the leg. Does it happen every time? No, but on that shot placement forward, yeah, most every time it does. If anybody says, oh, we get 100% pass through, you're a liar. because you don't depend on the angle, depend on what you're shooting, depend on how many pounds you are, how far out the shot is. You might not get passed through, but we don't want you to worry about, does this thing open up? We're wherever it is, we're fully deployed upon impact, on pass through, and even when it's in the dirt, it's still open.
Yeah, I was sitting in a tree in Kansas last October. I had a nice buck walk in to about 25 yards, and I had a miscellaneous quiver. Like I had fixed blades in there, I had mechanicals, and I looked down at which one I had on there that time, and it was a mechanical. And I drew back on the deer, and it was quartering pretty hard. And I was like, I don't feel like looking for this deer for the next 15 hours. I just let my bow down. It's like, dang. If I wish at that moment I had the equipment where I was like, I'm taking that, because I have a 30+ inch draw length that shoots 65 pounds. I should be able to, I should have been able to do some damage. That should have been that deer's last day on earth. But I knew it wasn't going to work in that situation. And that really, really stinks, driving 9 hours and not being able to do anything about it.
So my question is, why do you have the Heinz 57 of broadheads in there? Why do you have a little bit of everything?
Oh, I don't do that very much anymore, but I had it in there. I think I had shot a couple deer the weekend before, and with my fixed blades, and I bent one of them, and I just took some other ones out of my bag and just put them on there. And I think I grabbed the wrong arrow when I put it on there, and I realized what I had, and I was like, this isn't going to work. This is not going to work.
That was also the time you were like experimenting pretty heavy with them though too.
Yeah, I think I was shooting a few different ones at the time. So that was stupid. I would not recommend people having a miscellaneous quiver like that, but it's how it was at the time. And I'm fully confident it cost me a deer.
Yeah, again, just getting back to feeling comfortable, getting used to what you use, whether it's your bow or your arrow or your broadhead or whatever. Just be confident when you draw back, I'm going to hit, and I know what that thing's capable of. Because again, it's about the ethical kill. That Ashby said it right. That animal has a choice, has some input in what happens, but we also have the ethical responsibility to give. You're taking its life. I mean, it's the breakfast thing, right? The chicken will go through some discomfort to give you breakfast, but a hog is all in. These deer, these animals are all in once you pull back and you drop it. If you don't kill them, they're still going to suffer. They're still going to hurt. So
yeah,
kill them with something you feel good about.
Well, that's the kind of thing that has kind of pushed me to the heavier arrow setup, because before, you can ask Christian this, before we talked to the Ranch Fairy, I was just going to rock the same setup I always had, because in last 2 or 3 years, I shot the Grim Reaper whitetail specials. So, I mean, I always thought they were great on whitetail, but of course, where we hunt on public, there's a plethora of pigs, and every single time a pig has come in, I have found this many of them. And a whitetail, if you hit them in the right spot, I mean, it does great. But I've also hit them a little far back, which obviously with an expandable, that's usually okay too. But I have a tendency to hug the shoulder, so you can kind of get where I'm at with my challenge there. But back to the hogs, it could be, I mean, to be honest, I don't really know where to aim on those things, because I had an expandable. I don't want to hit it right in the shoulder, because I'm thinking from a deer anatomy perspective. And so I'll be honest, try to hit him center mass, thinking, okay, that'll get a pass through. I haven't got one pass through with those whitetail specials yet. And listening to what the Ranch Fairies talked about, it takes a certain amount of
kinetic energy.
Yeah, a certain amount of that to even open it. And so, if let's say I don't know the math on it, but it takes away, I think he said 25 to 45% of the kinetic energy coming. And after that, and listening to him, I was like, "What's up?"
No, you're good. It froze for a second.
Oh. But yeah, long story short, after listening to him, like, that's my start into the heavier fixed blade journey.
Yeah, I mean,
Troy talks about that all the time. How he was trying to get the hogs with the mechanical, and then eventually just gave up. Right, that's how kind of all his stories started.
Oh yeah, losing battle.
Well, you gotta take some of that energy to open up the broadhead, right? And I'll tell you that Grim Reaper, I know Jay personally. He's a Utah guy. He's probably one of the best mechanical broadheads on the market. So you think about it, there's a lot lower end mechanicals out there that are made in China, and they got big names on them, Rage in the Cage type stuff. And those are weak, and you're shooting the best one, and you can't make a pass through on it. So Troy shoots some of our arrows. He's shot them and tested them for us, and we get pass through. I'm not going to say again, he doesn't get a pass through on every arrow he shoots because he's testing a bunch of them, but we're pretty confident that we're going to punch through those bones no matter where you place it.
See, and that's kind of what I want, because if you can't find a pig, I mean, it sounds bad, but oh well. But if it does that on a deer, then it's a little bit more of a heartbreaker. And plus, and I guess it's really not even oh well, because every single time I shoot a pig, like I'm going to shoot him regardless I get a pass through or not. Knowing this, it's like I can kiss, $60 goodbye with that whole arrow set up. And so that's where it hurts me, at least.
Yeah, but you're shooting a one and done if you're shooting mechanical.
That
if you
is
think
true.
you're going to go pick that up, I don't care whose it is. If you're going to go pick it up and try it again, yeah, good luck. It's like shooting a 50 cal, right? It's fun, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
Well, and the idea that you can use them over and over again and sharpen them, that starts to make a big factor in the cost when you think about a good fixed blade broadhead made out of the right materials, because some of those mechanicals are $45, $50 for a 3-pack. And it's people complaining about 70 or 80 for 3 fix. And it's like, yeah, but you get one shot out of this thing. And if you hit the dirt, you might as well just kiss it goodbye. It's gone.
Yeah, really with the fixed blade, at least like VPAs, it's if you lose it is kind of when you gotta buy another pack. And that's what we have people tell us all the time, Jeff, that, oh, it's not the best business model. You guys should make them probably not so good, right? So that people have to come back. But that's what we're about.
Well, it's kind of like in the medicine world, there ain't no money in curing people. It's only in the treatment. And so, I mean, you could apply that to about anything.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I sleep at night thinking that way though.
Yeah. What people do, but,
That's not true though, because, I'm not talking about the medical thing, but it is true. The fixed blade lose them all the time. Cause Troy always talks about, he said, my issue is not sticking them in them. It's 30 yards past them and not being able to find my arrow. That's a different type of problem.
Yep.
We're working on a solution for that though. So give us some time and you won't have to worry about finding your arrow.
Yeah.
So,
there we go.
Kind of going back to the broadhead thing. You got to excuse my ignorance on this. When you're talking about the metals, like different types of metals being used for broadheads, like, I guess one's harder, one's softer than the other. Can you kind of like explain that to a knucklehead like myself? Because the broadhead Christian talked about earlier, how he shot and it hit a rock or something and it completely taco shelled. And then I shot a fixed blade just trying it out last year or 2 years ago. And this is one of the times where I completely lost my crap and shot over the back of a deer and ended up smoking a rock where like sparks shot off. And I ended up finding that broadhead and it was only broke from the insert. Like all the blades still seemed pretty darn good. And it seemed solid after I found it. And I know I just smacked that rock because heck, I seen sparks from the stand. So can you kind of touch on the different metals and why some are good and some are bad?
Yeah, there's a whole range of different metals, but you got like carbon steel, and then you got your stainless steels and different grades within inside those mild steels. So it's a selection of the material, how much cobalt, how much iron, whatever the different elements that are in each of those. But then it's the heat treat. So you take them up to a certain temp, and then depending on how you quench them, sets a Rockwell hardness. And a Rockwell hardness is a measurement where you take a probe, a diamond probe or a hardened probe, and you stick it in the metal. You put tension on it and measure how far it sinks in. So the resistance, and it'll give you a Rockwell hardness level. So it's kind of a baseline type measurement. So we like ours to be in the 50, it depends on the metal, the 54 to 58 Rockwell. And then we use stainless steel S7, or we use a 1045 mild or tooled steel. Now the tooled steel is easier to sharpen, but it gets duller quicker. Where the stainless steel is harder to sharpen, but it holds the cutting edge longer. So it just depends what you want to do. We sell them we sell everything from the 100s to the 300s in both types of steel. So you can buy whatever you want, whatever you like.
So what's going to be the main difference in hardness or like just toughness between like a VPA broadhead and maybe just like a cheap Chinese mechanical? Like what,
And
how
broadhead.
how much tougher is it really for someone that's wondering?
Well, coming out of China, you don't even know if they're heat treated. We see a lot of broadheads that come out of China that are just cut on a machine and then sent to you. They're not hardened at all. So that's probably what you got when it folded over, that it might have been a great steel, but it wasn't tempered or didn't have the right hardness on it. So you want it to be as hard as you can get without being brittle. You can, if you run that Rockwell scale way up, when you shoot, it'll shatter like a piece of glass. If you run it all the way down, it's more malleable to where it'll bend around things. Like think of a piece of lead or a piece of tin. You can bend that and shape it around anything you want, but you get spring steel like this. Can I show you? This is my ruler.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is spring steel. I can kind of do whatever it wants and it goes back to where it's at. Where if you get a piece of plate steel that's hardened, you can't move it at all. Some of it's the thickness, some of it's just how it's heat treated. So the stuff coming from China, you know, the quality's not there. The steel, did they put enough of the expensive elements in it, or did they not put enough of the expensive elements in it? And there's no standards really that people hold themselves to in China. They can tell you it's ASTM, whatever the calling is for the spec, but you don't know it till you get it here. And most people don't care. You know, again, we had a big company come to us and say, can you make our ferrules? We said, yeah, we'll do it. We want a 5-year deal. And they said, no, we just want you to do it till we can get our stuff out of China. And they're the same ones that said, your business model's wrong. You need to make those softer and take the quality out of your broadhead so they fail so you can sell more of them. And we're like, yeah, go away.
Well, and the other factor I feel like that leads into the strength of our broadheads compared to other fixed blades, and then obviously mechanicals, would be that they're CNC machined. So we machine ours out of a solid piece of bar stock. So it's coming from one solid piece versus being metal injected, molded, or welded together, and there's no moving parts. So that's going to make it a lot more durable than some of these other broadheads out there.
Alex, that sounds expensive.
It is expensive.
Quality is expensive, but you look at us, we're kind of in the middle range on price. We're not, we're by far not the most expensive, and we're not the cheapest, but I think for the bang for your buck, we're the best quality. And there's some really good broadheads out there too.
So I was looking on your website the other day at the 200 grain broadheads, and I had to ask Christian this morning because I'm pretty darn new to the whole fixed blade and especially the single bevel type ordeals. But on there, you all said you make a certain broadhead for a left helical and then for a right helical, correct?
Right.
Yep.
So why is that? Like if you got those flip flopped or mixed up, which what would actually happen?
It just wouldn't be as accurate. So if your arrow's spinning right and you try to spin the head left, it's going to start stalling that out at some point.
They're
Maybe
working
not to
against
zero.
each other. Yeah.
It might not go to zero, but it won't spin as quick right like you want it to. And if you shot an arrow that didn't spin, it'd be like make a big arc and stick in the ground. So you need that rotation, like a football. You need that rotation to get the arrow to fly straight down. So if you're right helical, you shoot a right bevel. If you're left helical, you shoot a left bevel.
Okay. Yeah. You're just gonna have to excuse my ignorance on a lot of this. I know I've already said that 3 times, but I mean, when I say I'm a newborn when it comes to the fixed blade stuff. I mean, I am.
I know you guys got a good following, so I don't think anybody looks at you with milk on your lips.
well,
we've been faking it pretty good. No, I'm just kidding. Now, one of the things that's really interesting about the more premium, the nicer fixed blade, especially the single bevels, is like the durability and the ability to shoot them again and again. But that comes with like a different set of challenges of like the maintenance and the care. Like, what does someone need to know about sharpening, like a newbie? Like, do you sharpen it every time it goes through an animal? Do you sharpen it, just right before season? What is sharp? How do you test sharpness? Like, can you kind of get into all that sort of stuff?
Go, Al. You're the expert.
On sharpening, I don't know how much of an expert I am. I'd say I don't know if you guys had the chance to check out our new product. So the Omega we just launched this summer, kind of going off the whole sharpening thing, that's one of the biggest questions or feedback that we receive is what's the best way to sharpen, or I got these single bevels, but I'm having a hard time sharpening, or it's just taking me a long time. So we took that feedback and made the Omega. So it's what we think is the easiest 2-blade ever to sharpen. We actually like machine down the ferrule. If you look at a picture of it or check them out, you can see that the ferrule's flat and designed to lay flat on a sharpening stone, so that you don't need a jig or anything. You just lay it flat and pull it towards you to sharpen it. So as far as that goes, that would be the easiest one if you're new to sharpening or new to fixed blades to check out. We've gotten great feedback since launching that. And because single bevels can be difficult to sharpen, and then you do have to go in and buy the extra jig to make sure you're maintaining that right angle. So it kind of just eliminates a lot of that extra work and extra time if you don't want to kind of dedicate that to it.
Yeah, we're the only group that has now our whole setup. We have some single bevels that you can use a jig on, but we have a single bevel option you can do on a stone. Then all our 3 blades you do on a flat stone. So it's really taking that mystery of how to sharpen out. And then when you ask how sharp is it, I think that's a subjective question. Sharp for one guy might not be sharp enough for the other. Probably the mechanical one doesn't know, whatever comes out of the package is as sharp as you can get it, and that's what you shoot. But I actually get mine sharp enough you can shave the hair on your arms. And Brian Poe and Troy Fowler and most people that know how to sharpen, that's kind of what their test is you'll see us walking around during hunting season. You'll like, what happened to that dude's arm? He has no hair on it. It's because we're shaving it all off. That's why I'm growing a beard this year, so I can.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah, you got the tool for the job. Yeah, the sharpening thing is interesting to me because there's a lot of folks who are like, well, I just want to grab something out of the package. I want it to work, and I don't want to have to worry about sharpening stuff. And I think generally speaking, people are really lazy when it comes to this type of stuff.
Well, and that's just like the times too. That's with anything. We're impatient and we're used to getting things so quickly and with minimal work that to some people it's just a shock maybe to have to actually spend time getting prepared and ready to go out. So, I mean, we see both ends of the spectrum. We see people who are like, I want it ready to go right out of the package. And then we get people like, no, I want to sit and spend hours or whatever just sharpening and taking my time. Like, that's my time where I can just think and do whatever. Like Poe said that when he was in today. So it's funny just how people differ and kind of what they want to put their time into.
We're in a lazy society, though. I got a buddy that pulled in to a project I was on the other day, and he's a brand new truck, but he just had a brand new truck. I'm like, what's going on there? You had a black one, now you got a gray one. He said, well, it's time to get new tires. I don't buy tires. I'm like, holy shit. Wow. Let's go buy a new truck. That's like saying I'm going to go get a car, and when it runs out of gas, I don't fill gas up, so I'm trading that car in. It's the same thing with the Broadhead. Learn how to sharpen them. It's actually kind of fun once you understand how to do it. But I would say if you're not going to sharpen your Broadhead, you're probably not tuning in your arrows. You're probably waking up on, Friday night, I'm going hunting, Saturday morning, run over to Walmart, buy whatever's cheapest, throw it on there, fling it at them. You don't know if you're going to hit or not. I mean, those are not the type of people I'm looking for as a customer. I want ethical people that are into it. And it doesn't mean that they're bad people. I'm not saying don't buy from us, but man, you're taking God's animal. Take it ethically.
Wait, you mean I have to shoot my bow before I go hunting? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Preferably.
Yeah, I have a buddy. His name's Trent, and he has a page called Chest Thumper Outdoors, and he does a lot of like broadhead testing and sharpening. He like tests the sharpness testing. It's like, I don't know what the machine is called, but it's like the one with the little piece of. It looks like a piece of fishing line.
Yeah, we met Trent at ATA. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does a lot of cool broadhead testing. Do you guys use like those sort of things to test sharpness?
Yeah, and we're probably not the sharpest one coming out of the pack because we definitely want you to sharpen them. And we're also telling people, shoot your broadhead. Don't go shoot your field point all day long. And hunting morning, screw your broadhead on there. They're not the same. This is a fixed wing, airplane wing, right? It's going to fly different than a chunk of metal that's round on the front. Just the way physics works. So practice, resharpen. It's just get used to the equipment you do. It's, if you're a rifle hunter, you just go out and buy a gun, throw a scope on it, and hope that sucker hits whatever you shoot at. No, you put the time in, you sight it in, you practice, you figure out what ammo you like, you figure out what your distances are. It's the same thing with bow hunting.
Yeah, that's true. I do like the idea of being able to shoot your broadhead into when I've shot fixed. I've shot fixed for the last couple years, and I have like a couple dummy broadheads that I use to just shoot through the target. It's nice to be able to shoot your broadheads though every single time, and then go and resharpen them. Like you could shoot them all summer, not worrying how heck sharp they are, and then right before season, go get them arm hair sharp and they're ready to go. That's really, really nice.
What's kind of fun is you go out and you shoot them. I don't remember what kind of, I've got a big elk target I bought this year. I don't remember the name of it, the brand. But anyway, I was out shooting some broadheads through it, and I thought, man, I'm going to try those new Omegas, and shot them in there, and they stuck in. I sharpened them up, and it's like, shit, that was a full pass through on my target, my 3D target. Now, what the hell happened to that arrow? So that's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, do you shoot a lot of whitetails, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, we're out here and we live in the hidden state. Not going to tell you what it is where we have monster bucks, but yeah, we get our freezer full of does.
I think they already know.
Yeah. We do a freezer full of does and then our buck every year, and then we try to do an urban buck too. So I probably 3 to 5 a year, depending on what we can take each year.
So you get plenty of chances to stick an arrow through the other side of them and into the ground then.
Yeah, not just because I sell VPA and we own it, but I have not had one that hasn't passed through on anything I've shot since we bought the company.
And what's the variety, or what would the mix be of like yardages, shot angles? Have you got a pretty good sample size from yourself shooting animals?
Yeah, over my lifetime, right? They say your hunting career. My hunting career, I think I come out of the womb with a bow in my hand, but yeah, all different scenarios. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I've had, I used to shoot whack'ems, and I've had whack'ems pass through, and I've had whack'ems that went in 2 inches and didn't go all the way through. I shot rage for a long time until I realized they were junk and moved on. But I would say everything. I shot a deer 2 years ago, probably 8 yards out, straight down, right through the backbone, through the shoulder. Well, kind of on an angle. I got both lungs and severed his backbone on the way down. I shot one last year about 61 yards, quartering away, full pass through. Shot a turkey that sounded like I hit a watermelon and tumbled it, went all the way through.
Deflated him.
Yeah, I've shot an elk, countless does and buck whitetail. Trying to think, I've shot an antelope with them.
Going hog hunting soon, right? Can add that to the list.
I don't, when you hear about these people saying, oh, he shot 1,000 animals, I don't count them. I guess when you start going back and think about your whole lifetime, you could rack up quite a few. It's just, again, it's not something that's in my mind about how many did I kill, because none of the people that are telling you about how good they are telling you about the ones that they stuck and ran off, or these videos that you watch where they shoot them at 4 o'clock at night and 2 days later or a day later, they're out there with their dogs looking for them. Ryan has a perfect thing about that in blood trail. Why do you need a blood trail if you watch it fall 30 yards from where you're sitting?
Yeah, that's a good point. One of the things we were talking with Troy, the ranch fairy, about was how blood trails are very variable. I've stuck them so good before and be like, oh, that's going to be a leaker. And you walk up and it's pins. And then I've hit them terrible before and it's hit the right artery and it sprays. I mean, you're right. You should be worried about, in today's day and age, with whether it's dogs or thermal drones, no matter how you feel about that, I guess that's irrelevant. But there's a way to find the deer if you kill it. Killing it should be the number one priority. And we gotta, I don't know. I feel like if you hit one good, you kill them, you're gonna find them. In today's day and age, there's so many resources.
That was kind of the whole argument why we kind of switched to an expendable at first too, was because hunting the public land we do there. I mean, if you get in those clear cuts or those 2 or 3 year old clear cuts, I mean, once you get on the ground, that new growth or old growth is going to be chest, chin high or something like that. And so we were like, we need something that will open them up and get us a good blood trail. Well, what we found out though is if it's a pass through, it's a great blood trail. But if not, then that's kind of where you that's kind of where you fault.
Right. Well, think of this. You watch all these guys do the tests, and they shoot through I don't know, whatever their target is, and they look for penetration. You get these ones that can't go through the OSB or whatever, the plywood they're shooting through. But then they get all the way down, they shoot the milk jug, and these mechanicals are blowing great big holes in these milk jugs. I always go back to them and say, hey, time out. You didn't go through the plywood, right? So you didn't go through the bone. So you never got to the milk jug. So who cares what it does to a milk jug that's not behind a piece of bone? If you can't pass through that bone, you shouldn't make it to the milk jug test. So it's not an independent test. It needs to go through stages. If you don't make it through stage 1, you can't pass on to stage 2. So one of the things that we're going to try to work on is when you look at ammo, right, because of war and different countries trying to defend themselves, there's a baseline on ammo. So velocity, impact, all those kinetic energy, how far it flies, what the best projectile shape is, a ton of data around that, a ton of baselines. You go to archery, this guy's in their backyards, I've seen them shoot through Chevy beds. I've seen them shoot at armor plating, cinder blocks, boxes of rocks. There's no standard. I would like to see in the industry that we go to a materials specialist, get as close as we can to bone, and instead of ballistic gel, some kind of body mass type with a covering on it that is skin. And that's a baseline that every broadhead, every arrow setup is shot against that baseline. So it takes the subjectivity out of it and makes it all objective. Here's the baseline. Here's what the facts are. And then, back to that whole interview where they were bashing Ashby about, it was an old bow and whatever. Ashby put white papers out. He did scientific studies and he released white papers. And when Dudley talked about that group of people that should have some input, they're great archers, no doubt about it. They're all great archers. Put a white paper out, baseline it, show us exactly what you did, put a white paper out on it, and turn it from subjective to objective. But don't say, well, I've shot 1,000 animals and this is the best setup. Good, but that's subjective. That's your opinion. At least what Ashby's putting out has some data behind it, like it or not. At least he exposes, here's exactly what my tests were. Here's how I did the study. It was controlled, and here's the results, like them or not.
And on real animals with over 500,000 data points.
Yep.
That's not anecdotal. That's not your step cousin. I saw a video one time. It's not that sort of thing. That's real evidence on live animals. I've been using the new Exodus Rival cell camera for the last couple months, and I have found a beautiful mainframe 8-point with tons of stickers to go after this fall.
Ooh.
One thing I do appreciate about Exodus trail cameras is all of the cameras share the same data plan, so you only pay for what you need. A lot of cell cam companies charge you for HD pictures. I've seen prices of $5 for 50 HD pics. Exodus is going to give you unlimited HD pictures right to your phone, which is awesome when you're sitting there in the middle of the summer and it's 100 degrees and you just want to binge a bunch of trail cam photos.
If you're looking for a solid cell camera with great performance and a 5-year no BS warranty, go check them out. So as we all know, hunting gear is something people can make way too complicated. Arrows can be the exact same way. Instead of going down all those rabbit holes, trying to sift through the endless information that's online and you're not really sure if it's right or wrong, Exodus makes it simple to get the right arrow for your exact setup.
So go online to the Exodus Arrow Builder. It takes less than a minute. You're going to enter your draw weight, your draw length, and how heavy of a point you're shooting. And it's going to be that simple. Let the guys at Exodus take care of the rest.
So if you're interested in Exodus Rival cell cameras or a new set of their MMT arrows, just go to exodusoutdoorgear.com and use code HA15 for 15% off anything on their website.
Once again, that is exodusoutdoorgear.com. Use code HA15 at checkout for 15% off. Now let's get back to the podcast. And you don't have to, I don't get where these two things can't be this, like, they're not mutually exclusive. You can be accurate with a really good broadhead that's heavy and a heavy arrow. Absolutely you can. Yeah, you're going to sacrifice some of your range, but most people shouldn't be shooting 80 yards anyways. That's the reality of it too.
Yeah, they keep coming back and saying the bows are so advanced now that speed is everything. Well, okay, so the bows are so advanced now, and you're telling me that an arrow makes them less advanced just because you change that arrow weight, or if the bow is so dialed in and can shoot anything, Shoot what you're happy with. The only person I got to convince that it's good is me. I give two shits less about everybody else. Pick what's good for you, but what's good for me, this is what I'm good with. I'm the one that's got to pull back, hit the mark, and make sure I'm making an ethical kill. I get to decide that, not somebody else telling me, oh, I've been doing this for 40 years. Listen to me and do what I say. Yeah, that's taking the fun out of it. I want to learn how to do it on my own. I don't need, where did you go to college to become an archer? Show me that degree. Show me the criteria that you got. Did you graduate from, I don't know. I go on all day about that. It just pisses me off right now because we should be coming together, not trying to divide. And the people that have the biggest bully pulpits seem to be trying to divide, or what I really think is a true fact is just follow the money back. They're trying to get you to buy what they rep. I rep light arrows. I rep mechanicals. This is Jeff Stringer with VPA. I rep fixed blades. And I want you to shoot VPAs. And I'm not going to blow smoke up your butt to tell you why. I'm just going to show you I've got a bunch of good people that are good ethical hunters that love our stuff and think it's a good value. So come try it out.
Well, that's the exact conversation we had just a little bit ago about how John's, I guess, argument was all about chasing speed. And that's why the penetration was wrong, is because you're like the heavier arrow, obviously the less speed you're going to get. But when we did the podcast with Troy, I kind of asked them the same exact question. Like, okay, even on private land where it's the most controlled setting that I can possibly hunt in, I have to set my feeder out 40 yards away from my blind or my stand, just because, I know everybody says this about every state, but it's super small segment of land around here. So you only have usually 20 or 40 acres to hunt, and everybody has a feeder. So my thinking is deer associate, feeders with danger possibly. And if they come in and like the doe groups of 5 or 7, it's like every single one of them has schizophrenia, the way they're bobbing their heads up and down. So that's why I set my feeder not at 25 yards, but 40, 45 yards, or else I'm not going to be able to even draw back. And I asked them that question, about speed. Like if I have a heavier arrow set up, it'll take longer to get there. That's just my simpleton thinking. And he actually said that a heavier arrow has better or more kinetic energy, or is faster, I forget which one he said, at 60 yards than a lighter arrow is immediately after out of the bow.
Yep. Just again, go back to projectiles. And here's the one I keep going back to is when you go to Utah and you draw a tag, don't show up with a 22. It's fast, it's light, but they don't want you to shoot a bull elk with a 22, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't that kind of what we're talking about? Is the weight, the mass that's going through there. And I go back to Daryl Barnett and Garrett Itz and people like that are scientists that understand the whole kinetic. And Daryl has a good point that he talks about. It's not about the poundage on your bow that you release with. It's about the impact of the arrow when it hits the animal. It's the pounds per square inch when it hits the target that kills the animal. It's not the 80 pounds of bow that you released it with, right? Because if I'm shooting 76 pounds and I'm shooting out 60 feet, that impact energy is different than if I'm shooting 43 pounds and I smoke that thing at 8 feet, right? It's all that has to play into it. So I'm going to stick with, and Daryl's not our only guy we talk to, but I'm going to stick with the people that can sit out and say, here's the proof, here's the data, here's the baseline, it's repeatable. And I am going to listen to the good archers, Cam Haynes and Dudley, I think, is a great archer. Joel from Maxfield, he's done a ton of stuff. They all have things to add, but I lose my willingness to listen to them when they say, listen to what I have to say, but discount what Troy has to say. Mm-hmm. I can learn something from everybody. I learn something from my 20-year-old son every day. I learned something from Alex, and I hope I glean things off to people too. But man, let's not just dig ourselves a hole. And until you can walk on water and feed people with a fish and a couple loaves of bread, shut up and keep your opinion to yourself.
I only know one guy that can do that.
Yeah, and I guarantee he can outshoot all of us if he wants to.
Yeah. Yeah. I did want to touch on kind of shot angles. And I shot a buck last season, opening day, a pretty hard shot angle, and with a fixed blade broadhead, hit probably 2 inches behind the shoulder. And what it did is it didn't have it had kind of a whack tip on it, not super, the angle on it wasn't right. It was kind of short and fat, and it hit right behind that shoulder and rode the ribs all the way up and kind of stuck up in the armpit. What can you tell me about kind of shot angles, and like, what do you have any idea of what determines like what's going to catch and actually go into the cavity versus what's going to skip off? Because that kind of stuff's fascinating to me.
Hey, think about it, and I didn't think about this till I was hunting with a guy up in British Columbia. He said in the wintertime, he doesn't think shot angle is as critical as long as you're going along the grain of the hair, because the hair helps pull that through the skin and through the target. But if you're hunting Georgia early season and they're slick, there's not a lot of hair there, and you're shooting against the grain, right? So you're shooting front to back. That angle might have to be a lot steeper or a lot more perpendicular to make that through. So I don't think there's a perfect answer out there. I think it's, that's where it comes in about what do you feel good about. I shoot my targets on angles. I have tree stands at different angles, and targets are different than real animals, but I want to make sure I can make those placements, make sure that I can hit them where I know it's going to anchor. So if you're shooting at it's quartering away from me and it's super sharp, I'm going to try to get it to where I'm going between the clavicle and the rib cage and catch in there somewhere. But every animal's different. Every rib cage is different. I think it's, question if those are always ethical shots, but you got to make them. I've shot deer dead center down the front and snapped them, but I've shot one in the spine. I shot one 2 years ago in the spine, or a couple of years ago in the spine straight down. Then I shot another one. It was on a hard angle and I was above it and it clipped its spine, and that thing ran 70 yards. And when I got over there, the spine was severed, but it didn't know it, I guess, or it severed it after it fell down or what, but it ran. I thought I missed it. It ran that fast. So I don't think there's a good answer, but
yeah, every shot is so different too. Yeah. Like, people want to draw conclusions off of one shot. I guarantee you, if I had shot 50 animals, not one of those shots is going to be exactly the same. It's not going to hit in the exact same spot at the exact same angle. They're all different. And I feel like it goes back to like shooting something that you have confidence in, going to the woods with something that you feel really prepared and really, really confident in. And I feel like there's a lot of folks that don't do that. And I've done it in the past too, where I didn't go to the woods fully prepared, and I don't really want to do that anymore. So I'm willing to spend the money on the front end and fix it.
A lot of those videos you watch, right? Not everybody kills a deer every time they get in the stand. That's just not true. I actually like watching the Crush. Lee and Tiffany is that they seem to show you everything. Everybody gets out of the tree. Oh, I smoked it. And you watch that video on some of them and it's way far back or it's way far forward and you're thinking, or it's way low. You're thinking that's not smoking it. And then they're out there the next morning with dogs looking for it. But I think they show you some of the true placements of where they're hitting it. Thought, oh, I hit it too far back. I hit it too far forward. But they're great archers. The Drury brothers are great archers, and they make bad shots every now and again. So I think it's just those angles that you got to pick and try to determine, am I a good enough shot to do that? Or is, I'm like some of those guys that if it's a 180 class buck, my ethical range might change a little bit.
Oh, you're speaking my language at that point,
I'll be honest about it. I've taken shots that I've regretted later.
Oh, yeah.
I've shot deer that have ran off, but I haven't shot a deer with ours. And I would say even with the Whack'ems and the Muzzies, I could probably say one or two, but most of them go through. But I can give you a list of animals that I've shot that the rage in the cage just didn't do it for me.
No. Well, that's coming from a owner of a Broadhead company, though. So, I mean, take it with a grain of salt.
I admitted I gave that disclaimer up front.
I know, I'm messing with you.
So why don't you guys take a few minutes and talk about some of the products that you guys have this year that you're either really excited about or that you think folks from people that are hunting whitetail all the way to west can be excited about?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of already touched on it, but our new product for this season, the VPA Omega, like I mentioned, designed to lay flat for super easy sharpening. It's actually patent pending, so nothing that's been out on the market before. Eliminates kind of all that work and extra jigs and tools necessary to sharpen the single bevels. This one's also unique because it combines a single and double bevel, so it's got a Tonto tip up front, and then the first third of the broadhead is actually a double bevel to break bone and penetrate, and then you get that single bevel on the remaining 2/3 of the broadhead. So be sure to check that one out. It's been our biggest seller, I think, this month. We launched it late July, so pretty exciting. It's 200 grains right now is what we've got on the market, and more to come soon. Yeah.
Jake wants to shoot.
Yeah, you mentioned 200 grains. Yeah.
Well, my thinking is, because before I was shooting 125s, and again, snorting some of that fairy dust, I was like, well, if I'm going to make a jump, I might as well just make a
all
leap.
in.
And so that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yep.
We've got that. We've got some, we do some traditional risers. They'll be coming out. We do a 13 now. It'll come out 13, 15, 17, 19, and 22. So they'll be out. We've got a release that we're going to get out. I don't know if it'll be out this year. We have a sister broadhead to the Omega that'll come out that goes from 125 all the way up to 300 with some different features that give you some ways to change it up. And then, we have, when you look at Vantage Point, that's our umbrella company. We have Vantage Point Archery, which most people know. We have a new company called Vantage Point Armory. We've got some new stuff coming out for the PX4 Beretta, some Glock stuff, some magazine extensions coming out. And then we have Vantage Point Outdoors. We have a hot dog shooter for training dogs. We have a shuttle to load your clay pigeon magazine coming out. But our love is the archery company. But the selling point isn't about, it's about our products. We make good products. But the difference with us is we're U.S. made, we're U.S. sourced. Right here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, we have 30 families that live off of EPA and our machine shop, and that's what keeps us going. That's what we make our decisions on. How do we represent them? Are we good ethical people? Do we treat them good? Can they retire? Can they put their kids through college? Can they have a mortgage? Those are the things that go into VPA besides making a good product. We're creating jobs. That's what we're trying to do, is create good U.S. manufacturing jobs. And we're not going to put the value of the dollar and chasing it over doing what's right. We're not going to go to China. We're not going to outsource. We're not going to sell you something cheap. We're going to sell you a good American-made, proud to be an American type product. So that's why you should buy VPA, some of these others.
I appreciate that.
I love that.
One of our sponsors is out on a limb, and they're based here in Oklahoma. And they make all their stuff, and we've been to their place and see how they sourced and make stuff and how hard they work. And people get on, they're like, "Oh, they're a little more expensive than the Hawk climbing sticks." I'm like, "Yeah, but they're not a piece of shit either." Like,
Amen.
you don't when you put it on the tree, the button doesn't fall off when you're 15 foot up. It's like and another thing, I know who to be pissed off at if it doesn't work. Matt's got his personal cell phone number on there,
and that's the thing. He will take responsibility for that too. I mean, if something weird happens like that, in which, I mean, that's appreciated. Now you're probably not. I mean, yeah, like Christian said, he has his personal phone number on there, so there ain't no talking to a foreign lady and then waiting for 30 minutes. I mean, you get answers, which good products don't really have to answer many questions though.
Yeah, we have a full warranty. As long as you don't shoot it into something stupid, we'll give you a new one. If it passes,
that's what our warranty says. That exact statement, right?
if you want to go out and buy a brand new set of broadheads and go shoot them into rocks, more power to you. But don't send them back, because I didn't design them to shoot through rocks. But if you pass through and hit rocks behind the deer, and it screws it up, which it won't, but if it does, send it back. I'll send you a new one. And then no matter if you call, it's me, Ryan, Alex, or Kellen that pick up the phone. So if you got a complaint, a bitch, a moan, or a high five, it's one of us. And with Absolute, you guys come up with an idea and you want to put it into action, call us. We do a ton of white labeling. So if you think of any of the good fixed broadheads out there that aren't MIMS, more than likely they come through our shop and you just don't know it.
That's cool. Yeah, I appreciate the USA manufacturing too, because I bought a pair of binoculars. I'm not going to say which ones, but spent $350 on a pair of binoculars the other day, and I pulled them out and I got home and I was looking through them. I was like, oh, these are awesome. I flipped them over. It said made in China. I wanted to take the motherfuckers back. I couldn't find the receipt though. So it pissed me off though, because I don't know. I mean, in today's day and age, people can't support that. I mean, vote with your dollars. Like this is, I think it's awesome that you guys are doing that. And I think that's great.
Well, and we truly are too, because there's something we were talking about with somebody recently. Like, as long as it's like a certain percentage is made in the U.S., you can say that you're made in the U.S., right? When in reality, like, we are 100% designed, made. Our materials are sourced close to our shop. All of our outsourcing happens down the road when we get them anodized, stuff like that. So we're really proud of that.
Oh yeah, it's definitely something to be proud of. So we talked about broadheads for an hour. What are you guys going to be using broadheads on this fall? Like I know, Alex, you said you were going after some whitetail. What do you got on the docket?
So we're doing whitetail in Missouri with trekking the middle of September. Then I'm going out west with my dad. My dad's lived in Utah his whole life and never hunted elk, so I got him a Primo elk tag. We're going to go out hunt with him and one of our pro staffers, Steve Huggins. Then me and Steve has a farm that we manage, and a couple of them here in Indiana. We got some monster bucks on, so we're going to be out in Utah till the 29th, haul butt home, be in the stands October 1st to hopefully smoke some big whitetail. And then we've got ground in Kentucky. Ryan's going to Tennessee. We're going to Oklahoma with Jeff Johnston from Field Ethos to hunt with those guys. And then Joel Turner threw out elk in Washington and maybe even Idaho. I don't know. So we're going to hunt till show season starts.
You working at all this fall or just hunting?
Yeah, normally it's the other way around. Like, we're in the office too much and nobody gets anywhere. And now it's like just putting the brakes on. Multitasking.
That sounds like my kind of fall.
We don't put the brakes on.
Yeah, no breaks. Multitasking. You're just working from elsewhere.
Yeah, Alex knows I take a laptop or a computer with me everywhere we go, and you got conference calls and different stuff. So we stay busy.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exciting. What part of Oklahoma are you guys going to be hunting? I mean, if you're hunting public land, don't tell. But are you guys like going with an outfitter, or are you doing private, or what?
No, Jeff Johnston from Field Ethos has his own little farm, 500-600 acres right there. So we're gonna go see what he's got going on. Tons of hogs. So I mean, even if we don't do deer, we'll go smoke some hogs, do some R&D and some barbecue, and just good people hanging out with good people. That's what keeps us going in the industry. Is even the people that we've talked about today that we might not see eye to eye on, they're still great people. We focus on what's bad sometimes, but it's minuscule in the industry. And the great people we've met, you go to a TAC event and there's families with grandfathers, fathers, sons, daughters. We did the Joel Turner thing. I had my niece, I had my son, I had my wife. It's just different. It's getting kids outdoors. It's getting them away from video games. It's getting back to what makes America great, right? Red, white, and blue, hard work and blue collar. Get up. Don't let life kick you in the ass. Kick it in the ass and go make some good products. And let's find a way to keep those jobs here and go on all day. America first. Rah, rah, rah. Get Joe out of the house. Let's move on.
I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, if you guys are ever in Oklahoma, I mean, depending on when you're there, shoot us a message. We'd love to meet up no matter where you're at. It's not a super wide state, so we could definitely
I think he said he's like 3 hours from Dallas is the only reference I feel like.
So you're anywhere in the state.
Yeah,
you can get through the state in 4 hours.
I can't remember where he said he's at.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys get, not that I need big names, but isn't Blake Shelton, isn't he an Oklahoma dude?
Yeah, he's down in southern Oklahoma. Yeah.
And isn't he a big hunter?
Oh, yeah.
Well, where the hell is he? Why isn't he on your podcast? Why is he out here flinging some arrows? As an Oklahoma boy, not as a country star, as an Oklahoma boy.
He needs to be. I saw a Facebook post that a guy was chasing a big buck all summer, was putting trail cam pics of it on, and he goes, Well, I can't believe this happened, but it did. And he put a picture of Blake Shelton holding the buck he was chasing all summer. I guess he was neighbors with him or something. And I was like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Bad neighbor to have.
Blake, when you listen to this, get with these guys and go do some hunting. Get on this podcast. Let's see something besides the voice.
That's what we need to do.
Oh, you watch that, Jeff?
No, I don't. But
hypothetically,
yeah.
That's funny. Well, I think my big regret before this preseason is not buying some of y'all's broadheads before I head out for my mule deer hunt, because I'm leaving in like 3 days and I've got some fixed blade broadheads, but I meant to get some and I piddle farted around too long to order some before I go. So I'm gonna check them out. I know I want to do some product testing. Jake wants to do some product testing too. He's been telling me for like 3 years that he's gonna wait for the first broadside doe at 20 yards and send one right to the shoulder for some testing.
You're not supposed to say that on air, because that's going to backlash.
Well, he said
good,
it was,
but
Jeff told me it was science. It's guaranteed.
Well, it would be science, but that's something I wanted to prove. As soon as hopping off with the ranch ferry, I was like, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I want to not take a step. I want to take that full leap, 200 grain broadhead, and just 40 yards broadside. I'm going to hug the shoulder a little bit too tight on purpose. And
so
see what
do
happens.
this. Shoot Alex your mailing address. We'll get some out. Try to get them to you in 3 days. But we want honest feedback. If you like them, great. If you think they're trash, great. We just want the honest stuff. Tell us what you think needs to improve, because that's how we came up with the Omega, was people calling in saying we need something we can sharpen on a flat stone. Can you help us out? And that's the feedback we want. But when it does pass through, and I know it will, you better have that on camera so I can show that.
Oh yeah.
And then next, I want you to go get a rage in a cage and do the same shot. Put that on camera. And then next year, when we harvest that doe with a VPA, we'll pull that piece of junk rage out and show them, hey, here's the difference.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, that I'd be okay with using your all stuff, and I'm not just saying that just because we got you on here. I'm okay with using your guys' stuff on the first doe, but the second doe, we're supposed to save a few tags because we got a buddy out in Southwest Oklahoma, or Northwest, Northwest, whatever it is, somewhere in the state that wants us to keep some deer tags, or doe tags at least, because he has a lot of doe that need smoked. So I just don't even want to put on another mechanical right now, just to test that, because I mean,
I don't know.
As of right now, yeah, there's that, and as of right now, on public or private, we got some tanks, and I'm not going to go trailing a doe through all that stuff. So,
well, that's the testimonies we want right there. When given the choice, what would you shoot?
Yeah.
People, whether it's ours or Iron Wills or whoever's, shoot a fixed blade.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's going to have to happen. Before we get off, I know we haven't really did much hunting tactics or anything like that. There is a question I wanted to ask you, Alex. I don't think we can ask you this question yet because you're not that far into it, and you haven't had
some stripes though soon.
You will. Yeah. You will have some lashes. I can guarantee it. So, there's this thing we do at the end of the podcast. We call it the close but no cigar. And what is that one moment, whether that be a shot opportunity or just an encounter, that still haunts you to this day?
Haunts me to this day is that bull elk.
It can be any type of species you want.
I shot that bull elk with mechanical. Watch it go in, hit the rib cage, run down the skin, pop out the bottom, and it was probably they're always bigger in your mind than what they are, but it was
400.
He's a 380 or better. Okay. It just broke my heart. It broke my heart. So I don't know. There's been plenty that I pulled back on too, and thought in my younger days I'd have just flung the arrow at him, but now I'm like, I'm not sure I'm going to make that shot, so I'll let down and let him pass. It's more about, some days it's about sleeping in the tree stand, I'll be honest, but some days it's about just knowing that you took that shot that was either so close you could smell them. I want to shoot those ones that are 8 yards out, not the ones that are 80 yards out. I want to be up close and personal when I whack that thing. It's more intimate that way as far as the memories. And I try to get my son and my wife and everybody to think that way. Is when you're doing it with a bow, it's because you want to get in close and personal. So is 40 yards close and personal, or is 4 yards close and personal? And this, how do you eliminate your smell? And I'm that guy. I just want to get in and have them walk underneath you and not even know that they just got smoked.
Mm-hmm.
No, I hear you.
One of the most fun I ever had was last season on some Kansas public. I sat behind a telephone pole and a rock and shot a buck like 19, 20 yards away on the ground. And it was a dink. It wasn't a very big buck. But
Yeah,
I was like, that was
open its mouth.
Yeah, say what you will. Tagged out. No, it was awesome, though. It was some of the most fun I ever had, up close and personal, on the ground. I was sitting there like, I need to do this more often. This is fun.
Yeah. Some of my best memories, my daughter now, how old's Maddie Alex? Probably 27,
Yep.
maybe. Yep. I had Maddie, I think she was 6 or 7, sitting in a blind, and it was a homemade blind out of sticks and whatever. And we had 4 or 5 deer come in looking over the blind at us, and she smoked one. And it was a dink. That's one of the biggest trophies we've ever got, because it was me and her and just sitting there and, going out this year with my dad. I don't care if we kill a spike or a cow or whatever. He wants a big one. We know there was a big
don't be
390.
talking crap on those spikes, okay?
Yeah. I seen that back there.
I saw that in the background also, and just
Jake's biggest buck.
Hey, I'm
Just
saying,
kidding.
don't judge. Lord said don't judge.
I thought that was one of those forks you flip steak with on your barbecue.
Well, it probably could be made for that. I mean, if you squeeze it a little bit, but I mean, hey. That's why
But this year with my dad, it's about memories, right? So it doesn't matter even if we come home skunked. I got to spend 5-6 days hunting with my dad out in the middle of nowhere and making memories, because I got less days ahead of me with him than I have behind me. So that's what it's all about. That's why we shouldn't be telling people I'm an expert, I'm a master, do as I say, not as I do, and don't make your own experiences your own memories, because that's just cheating people out of life. So
Yeah, that's for sure. Maybe take it a little less seriously and have a little bit more fun would be a good message. Yeah, when you were talking about the sleeping thing, that made me think of Carol, Jake. We've got a buddy, and he hunts with us and films with us. And last season we were hunting public land, and we were like, dude, he's sleeping in his truck because he had spiders crawling on him in the camp. We're like, oh, come on, dude. Like, just kill a few and go back to sleep. But he didn't. He went to sleep, and we knocked on his window, and we're like, let's go hunting, man. And he just said, listen, I'm going to sleep in the tree, so I might as well sleep here. He's like, if I get to the tree, I'm going to sleep. I didn't sleep all last night. I was at a 45-degree angle. Just let me sleep here. We're like, all right, so be it. Then he has the audacity to text me at 7:30 when he's rested. Seeing anything? I said, you don't get to know if I'm seeing anything, because you were back at camp sleeping.
Like last year, we were on Steve's ground, and my wife has on my laptop, you can see my Tacticams. I went out early at like 2 p.m, and she's like, did you get it? Text me, did you get it? And I'm like, get what? She said that buck, and she sends me a picture of it, and I'm like, nah, I was asleep. It walked right in front of me. I didn't even see it.
Oh,
That sucks.
Oh, well.
We've all
I got a good day's rest, so I was happy.
Oh, yeah. Hey, better out there than at home. That's how I look at it. Well, if people want to, one, we appreciate you guys doing this, by the way. It's been really, really fun, and we'll definitely do it again sometime. For people that want to connect with you guys, want to see what you're all about, maybe buy some broadheads, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, vparchery.com is our website. You can check out all our products, stay up to date with what we got going on, any events and new product launches and all that good stuff. And then we're on all the social media channels, so VPA or Vantage Point Archery, and you can find us.
Or just call us. We'll answer the phone.
Yep.
That's crazy. That's getting less and less these days.
And if you got some harebrained idea that you want to manufacture, call us. We have a machine shop. We'd love to make it for you here in the States.
That sounds good. Thank you guys so much for checking out the Hunter's Advantage podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.